Get the full.
Okay.
Now I pressed it.
Okay. I am live as well. Lots of complaints about lateness, as always. Somebody said this is
I've
why
been sitting
Eck
here
doesn't
for
have a
half an
real
hour.
job.
I've been sitting here waiting for you for half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely
Get it
not
out.
because of miscommunication about time.
It actually could have been far worse because what happened is I fell asleep putting my daughter to bed. So I had my stream set to 8:45.
That's not
my
who's
time.
supposed to fall asleep.
Thankfully, she fell asleep too. But I had my stream set, and then I was like putting her to sleep, and she's like, "Daddy, come snuggle." So I
Daddy,
just,
you're
like,
late for TapCaf transmissions.
yeah. So I was just lying there, and yeah, I fell asleep. I happened to wake up at like just 10 minutes ago. So
Great, love it. Big Charlie move from you, but we won't let that get in the way.
A bit, yeah. Not great. Not the most responsible thing I've ever done, but
I mean, when I said earlier, are you still good to go in 3 hours? And you said yes. I was kind of thinking, he's going to think I mean exactly 3 hours from now because it was a bit closer to 4:45 for me. And I just
hold on.
he knows
My trailer's playing audio, I think, too. Sorry, guys.
Great job. Great job.
I had the trailer. How do I turn that off? I think it is. Oh, yeah, really loud. Okay, sorry about that, guys. There you go. That should be better.
All right, now we're good?
Yes, now we're good. Just going to apologize in chat so people know how to turn that thing back on. You can turn your audio back on now. I'll have to edit that out afterwards in YouTube Studio. Okay, I'm good.
All right.
Give us a full intro, would you?
I thought you wanted to do the full intro this time. You told me It was the thing. Okay, fine.
No.
Hello there, everyone. Welcome to another episode of TapCaf Transmissions, the only Star Wars podcast that has 2 episodes this week, because today we're going to be talking about everything coming out of Star Wars Celebration, and we're going to follow that up on Thursday talking about The Mandalorian. But for all the Celebration news, I am your one host, Corey, and the other host, Justin EckhartsLadder, has decided to slum it today with all of us YouTube people. So how are you doing, Justin?
I'm doing well. It's been a long weekend of Star Wars coverage, plus Easter. I hope you had a good Easter, Corey. I hope you were resurrected.
Yeah, it was a rough Friday, but we made it through.
Ish. Yeah. Hope you're all healed up. Hope everything's going well. Yeah, it's been lots of news. I'm glad we're popping in here with a news episode. But yeah, it's been good. How about did you do anything special over Easter? Did you get out of the house?
We actually went clothes shopping today because in Ottawa it started at like -4 this morning, but then throughout the course of the day it got up to 20 degrees almost.
Yeah,
I don't know how to translate that to Fahrenheit for any Americans watching.
I'm
like
sure there's 75 maybe.
Okay, but it start freezing, now not freezing.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still giant snowbanks, so it was weird because it was like walking outside, t-shirt, dying because it was too warm right now, and then just having snowbanks everywhere still. It's actually kind of disgusting.
Yeah, and it was it's supposed to be really nice here for the next week too, so I'm guessing it's probably the same with you, is it? Like the next week,
yeah,
15, 20?
It's going to be great. Did you get anything or get up to anything for Easter? Did the Easter Bunny bring you anything nice, Justin?
The Easter Bunny brought my children lots of chocolate, so I claim the dad tax. And dad tax is a lot like real tax, like a marginal tax rate. Whereas like on the first 50, like the last 50% of their candy they get, I'm really crushing half of that. Like when they've got like just one Easter Bunny left, I'm maybe cracking like half an ear or something. But yeah. So yeah, good Easter for me too.
That's good.
Yeah.
I live far enough away from my family that like if my friends go home for Easter, it's just me and Dana here. So there's really nothing other than every store being closed. That's the main impact on my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll get a text from random family members reminding me that it is in fact Easter that I'll sometimes respond to.
Yeah.
That's my celebration. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't never let them see your next move.
They can't
My
afford my rates for an actual conversation.
yeah, for sure. Super expensive, especially on this week of celebration.
Yeah.
Should we just start talking right now? The big announcement regarding celebration itself. So,
Okay, yeah.
celebration. I don't know which number. We must be at like what 12 celebration 12 or
I think
something.
they've stopped numbering them. It's just
Mm-hmm.
it's not like the Super Bowl. We're not getting up to Super Bowl XXVI.
Right, but the next celebration will be in Japan. What are your thoughts on that?
Uh so on the one hand, I am perfectly happy with the idea that they should go to a bunch of different places so that as many different people have the opportunity to go. But
Mm-hmm.
it also makes me kind of sad that it's not a yearly thing right now, because when it's so spread out, like I wasn't able to go last year. I thought about going this year, but then it was still kind of far, and
Mm-hmm.
especially when the timing didn't really work because we had the other trip earlier, and now I've got to go for my dad's birthday back to my hometown this week, so it would have been super tight. And I was thinking,
Mm-hmm.
oh well, the rumors were that it would be in Orlando in 2025, so I
Yeah.
figured that's easy enough to do, but that was wrong. So I don't know. Now it's like the next one that I could possibly go to, depending on where it is, would be 2027, unless I just want to blow all of my money going to Japan. So I don't know. Are you thinking about going?
I think I am. Yeah, I've never been. Same with you. I was supposed to go in 2020, I believe, but it was canceled.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I'm thinking about it. I might take my son and I might go. It's going to be expensive, but I've wanted to go to Japan and I never have, so it'd
Yeah.
be a cool kind of opportunity. I definitely would go more than because it's a shorter celebration too. It's only 3 days versus the
Mhm.
4. But yeah, I mean the dream would be like Star Wars Celebration Toronto, which
Yeah.
Toronto
No,
would be
not
a
happening.
no. I do think Toronto will get one at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I imagine they'll kind of. It seems to me they'll get on like a cadence of like North American, then. Well, sorry, I expected them to get on a cadence of North American, then I guess I'll just call it worldwide. But they're going
Yeah.
London to Japan now, so I guess I don't really know.
Yeah, like I think 2025 will be a big one. I don't know if there will be enough. Like I guess the fear with doing it every year is that there's not enough announcements, but I think you can probably spread it out. And I'd be okay with there being like some smaller ones just that are there to have the event. Like you don't have to have a bunch of announcements at like Comic Con and Dragon Con and that kind of stuff
Hmm.
for people to want to go. Uh, but I haven't entirely ruled out going in 2025 because it's going to be. You have to imagine it's going to be a pretty big one because we're probably
Yeah.
getting into movie trailers for the first movie to come out, which we'll talk about in a bit. But also, most of the shows that we have announced now are going to be wrapping up in the next year or two. So Mandalorian seems like it's going to go on for a while. We don't know if Ahsoka is going to be a limited series or not. Uh, but like the Acolyte, who knows if that's going to have multiple seasons? Andor is going to be done. The Bad Batch is going to be done. So it's I don't know. It seems like there'd be a lot to actually announce at that one. So it'd
Hmm.
be cool to be able to be at it.
Yeah, no, for the record, I totally agree that it doesn't need to be only like it doesn't need to be announcement based. Like at least when it started, Celebration was a fan event.
Yeah.
That's kind of what made the scale of it so remarkable. Like for me, I know the big argument is you go and like you might not even get the panels, and that's definitely worth
Yeah.
discussing about. But for the reason I would want to go is meet like viewers and meet other just kind of to see stuff. Like I want to
Yeah.
see like what kind of Star Wars Legend stuff they have, stuff that's never going to make the stage except for the E-wing. So yeah.
Is that the big news we should talk about first, the Ewing, or are we going to get claimed for? Because that was just in a like panel
Mhm.
exclusive where they were showing a bit more from Ahsoka, and
Mhm.
everyone you posted a few frames of the E-wing. I did like I got what you were talking about immediately, but everyone else that saw your post on Twitter seemed to be under the assumption you were just talking about a picture of Sabine's ass.
Right. I do want to address that because even in the chat now, I've had people saying you were clickbaiting with the ass. Like what am I supposed to do? Like I found the best shot of the E-wing in the trailer. Keep in mind, this is a trailer shot with someone's camera that's not supposed to have it out, and like every single shot, like her butt is half of it, sure, but like the ship is the main focus. Like,
Supposed to be.
it's supposed to be. And for one, like, why are you complaining about someone's butt? Like, since when did butts become evil? Like, but it was literally the only way I could present it, unless I wanted to really cut it down so it wasn't even thumbnail worthy.
Man's out here trying to give you all a prime view of the E-wing, and you're just complaining about it. Like,
When
why
I
even
saw
bother?
when I saw the E-wing, like I watched it and I think the link I found the video right when there was like 600 views on it, and I was at first my YouTube is doing this thing where it plays the video first in like 360p.
Yeah,
So I was
I've been
watching it.
getting
And
that
I
a
was
lot
like,
too. But
yeah, and I was like, what the is that a goddamn E-wing? And then I rewatched it in 1080 and blew my mind. Like I messaged you right away.
yeah,
So
like you sent me the message with just the slowed down video, and you just asked me like, "What do you think this is?" And not for a second was I thinking, "Man's just trying to send me a slow mo video of Sabine's ass." I was like, "No, it's clearly the ship."
yeah, and I mean, if it were the butts, like, is that really a crime?
It's not a crime. It'd just be weird that you were sending it to me.
Yeah, it's funny because originally I posted. So I at first thought it wasn't quite as clear in screenshots because I was watching it in the lower quality.
Yeah.
So I like recorded myself, like I OBS'd my screen, just like playing back and forth over that clip on YouTube.
Yeah.
I didn't realize I was recording the audio, and I didn't listen. But you can probably hear me just like heavy breathing, like trying to spot one of my favorite ships ever. Like, where are you? Like
There
just
it
like
is.
clicking the period button to like move forward a frame. Like, yeah, let's see you. Like, let's see from those angles.
Yeah, that's going in evidence somewhere. I don't know what's going to happen with it, but I was watching on my phone and it was pretty clear what was going on. I didn't
I
hear any
noticed when
breathing.
it's smaller, it's easier to see, unlike butts. But yeah. So that was a very exciting moment. The E-wing looked great as well. No canopy cannon. So the ship will be canon, but the canon ship's cannon won't be canon. So
Nice. That
yeah.
what more could we really ask for other than
Mhm.
E-wing? Everyone said it was impossible, and yet here we are, 2023, the year the E-wing shows up for 3 seconds in live action. And it's
Wasn't
got to
even
be part of like
Yeah.
a bigger fight at some point.
It wasn't even in the regular Thrawn trilogy, which is the crazy part. Did you watch the trailer, like the one behind closed doors one?
I don't think I got. No, actually, no, I did. I did, because there's a few things in that. I don't know if we want to talk about that too much, any details from it, because I don't know if that's too far into like spoiler territory for people, because it's not an official trailer and there's some pretty big stuff in it. Or should we just tell people to screw off for a minute or two?
Yeah, if you don't want to be spoiled, because I wouldn't have minded it, but I also
Yeah.
don't mind spoilers. So just for context, for anyone who hasn't been following along with the celebration, there was some stuff shown openly, like live streamed panels and stuff. There was some stuff released officially, and there was stuff behind closed doors. They showed episode 7 of The Mandalorian behind closed doors, obviously, or sorry, episode 7 of this season behind closed doors, and they showed a second teaser for Ahsoka behind closed doors. And I really feel like they're shooting themselves in the foot, because almost immediately people like me I wasn't there, mind you, but people like me started posting stuff that they saw, including, and again, spoiler alert warning, quick way if you don't click away if you don't want to, Thrawn's face. And like, do you really want people to be introduced to the character through like a Nintendo
Blurry,
DS
yeah.
camera, like for the first time?
Yeah, like they have to know that's going to happen. Like that, the first time people see the Acolyte, the first time people see Andor season 2, the first time people see Thrawn, it's all going to be in this like toaster quality video. But it is partially our fault, but it's not entirely our fault. It's mostly theirs.
And Thrawn looked a lot better in motion than he did in that one still image. Like,
Yeah.
who would guess? And again, still a few spoilers. The other differences in the trailer, we saw some really nice shots of Lothal that reminded me a lot of Rebels.
Yeah.
That's where
the highways there.
yeah, and that's where the scene is where Sabine is sliding under the E-wing, and we see Sabine fighting Shin. Shin has her lightsaber. Sabine has Ezra's lightsaber. At least
Was
I
that
assume it's Ezra's.
was that scene between Sabine and Shin, or was that the Inquisitor?
No, she fights Shin.
Okay.
Yeah. But it also does show that there's a bit of a fake out, because the first trailer, there's a shot where one of the ships is shooting at another one. In the original teaser, it looks like that Shin in the cockpit, but this time it shows it's the Inquisitor. Who's definitely, it's got to be Barriss, right? Unless it is one of the other ones. I don't know.
It feels like if they're going to bring Barriss back, then this is probably where it happened. And it's Dave Filoni, so you'd have to expect that it's going to be someone. I've seen some theories that like it's Ezra, but I don't think they're going to go that direction of like, oh, Ezra actually ended up turning to the dark side. I've seen theories though that Baylan is Ezra, so I don't know how. It seems like any theory. Yeah, that's one problem. It's either been I've seen theories of Baylan being Ezra. I've seen theories of Baylan being Cal Kestis. So really, Baylan is Baylan. We don't know really where Baylan came from, but it seems like it is some part of the Jedi Order. And
yeah, I really like Baylan's design.
Yeah, they both look cool.
Yeah, I've got the trailer looping kind of on my stream here. And yeah, I mentioned in my video, they kind of have a bit of an Imperial Knight vibe, to me at least, like from Legacy, where they have armor and they seem to have matching like standardized lightsabers. That's at least what I'm taking from it.
Shin and Baylan?
Yeah, I mean, they both have the orange blade, I guess.
Well, they have the blade the same, but
yeah. I guess what I'm more mean is it seems like they've got almost more of a uniform. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So yeah, I got Imperial Knights vibes, but I love Baylan's look. He's got like a real mass to him, where it's like, oh crap, like this is a man. Like that scene where he's fighting Ahsoka, it's like, yeah, he's got it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I love the look of the orange lightsabers as well.
Yeah. I've seen that seemed to be one of the most controversial or confusing parts of like, are these supposed to be orange or red? But Dave Filoni did confirm that they're orange. They're not just weird looking red. But Shin also had a Padawan braid. So it seems like they're not just dark Jedi as the way people describe like dark as the adjective and then Jedi just because that label is thrown on any Force user. It seems like they're some kind of like semi-corrupted Jedi. Right. I don't know if the idea with the lightsabers is supposed to be the synthetic thing that Obi-Wan had in Master and Apprentice, or that they found in Master and Apprentice, I think it was, or if it's supposed to be like still kyber crystals but halfway bled because they're not sure if they want to be evil.
That's what happens if you bleed them when you've got an upset tummy.
Yeah, it's a bruised lightsaber crystal.
Yeah. I'm not sure either. I personally never loved the idea of bleeding crystals.
I don't like it either, but just like thinking about what it could mean in universe for that to happen.
No,
it's not an endorsement of the views.
No,
it's just I prefer when it's a customization system in universe where Leia can have her red lightsaber, and it doesn't mean she's evil. She just likes red.
Luke gives her the red one, right?
I think so. Because that's the earlier one, right? It's not the NJO one. She gets like blue later on.
Yeah. He gives her the red one. I feel like it's in the Corellian trilogy, maybe?
Yeah. She gets like 3 different lightsabers where they're all supposed to be her getting her lightsaber because everyone wanted to write that story. And at that point, no one gave a shit what anyone else was doing.
Yeah. No, totally. Well, also the Emperor in Dark Empire has a blue lightsaber, which is kind of funky. Yeah, why shouldn't he? Because I mean, at the time, people forget this because it seems so obvious now, but there had only been one red lightsaber, and it was Vader's. And we know he's a fallen Jedi, so like it's definitely possible that red is just another ordinary color.
Yeah. We didn't even have Jedi power battles yet, so how is anyone supposed to know what anything was?
Exactly.
Didn't have any electric judgment.
But I thought regarding the trailer, I thought the trailer was really well done.
Yeah.
They showed a lot more than I was expecting.
Yeah.
I really liked the music. I saw a lot of people complaining about the "Heir to the Empire" quote, just because like it's a little too on the nose.
It is a
And,
little on the nose.
My response to that is like I watched a lot of. I was curious to like, was it? Because for me, it's like okay, as a hardcore fan, it's a signal. Okay, it's going to be a closer adaptation of the source material than maybe even I was expecting.
Potentially.
But, yeah, or at least that like it's it's an indication that hey, we know there's stuff we're pulling from. I went back and I rewatched a lot of fan reactions, and a lot of people that line came and they didn't even react at all.
There's probably like a lot of people who have never read the Thrawn trilogy that are going to be watching the show, obviously. And even among Star Wars fans, like the number of people who have actually gone and read a lot of the books, like even people who are like theoretically Legends fans, I'm not saying they're not, just if a lot of their knowledge comes from either reading Wikipedia or watching videos, they might not necessarily have actually read the book themselves either. So
I think that's controversial take, but I think that's the vast majority of people who talk about Legends.
I don't
like,
think that's
when I look
controversial.
At my comments,
I feel like that's just it's not controversial to me. At least
I'm not talking about just Star Wars fans. I'm talking about like people who say they like Legends. Like like when I look at my comments, people talking about the Thrawn trilogy, and I kind of posted about this the other day. Like I get the feeling that most of them know almost everything they do from me or from Wikipedia or from another YouTuber.
Yeah, like I think there aren't that many people who have read like a huge amount of it, at least. Like maybe some of them have read. There's probably a larger number of people who have read the Thrawn trilogy than other stuff. But I do think that there's some false perceptions about what it all is based on kind of looking retrospectively at Legends after there's been all of it already written and then a bunch of source books and other kinds of materials piled on top, and you're kind of getting the filtered view of that when you're watching a YouTube video about it or listening to a podcast about it. It's not like
shocked when the Nebula Star Destroyer is not in every battle based on like how I talk about it.
Not in any battle.
Like
it's in 3 books and then it never gets mentioned again.
Exactly.
And that doesn't mean like I'm sure there's someone like angrily typing in the comments or chat right now saying, "Well, I've read the book." Like, yes, I'm not saying you haven't, but I'm saying a lot of people probably haven't, or almost certainly haven't.
And you can see that the one really good test of that is how they spell Yuuzhan Vong.
Yeah.
But I will say I also saw a lot of people saying that they had interest, like where do I start? And the good thing is about the Thrawn trilogy is it's not the first thing in the timeline, but it's pretty much the best starting point. So if you're interested and you're not going to end up spoiling yourself, like here's what's going to happen: the good guys are probably going to win, Thrawn's probably going to lose. You should check out the books because they're really great. So
yeah, I think there will be a lot of people who, especially with it seems like Filoni is pulling from a fair number of books from the period. I don't think it's supposed to be like anyone who's expecting a direct adaptation, that's not going to happen. But like pulling elements or specific ships or vehicles, characters even, or like threads of storylines, that's probably going to be more what you see. And it's probably not going to be limited to just the Thrawn trilogy. There's probably some elements that'll come in from other places. And all that means is that there'll be more people who have a reason to go back and check out some of those books. Which is only a good thing.
Right. He talked about that specifically in an interview regarding his movie, because the first really big day one revelation was 3 new movies, one set in the Dawn of the Jedi era, one's essentially episode 10 in all but name.
Yeah.
It is episode 10. And then there's Dave Filoni's movie, which is described in he the way it sounds, it's like it's the most Legends sounding of them all, other than Dawn of the Jedi, I guess. But he said it's the New Republic fighting the Imperial Remnant. In an interview he gave, he's talked specifically about pulling from source material outside of canon, pulling from like I wouldn't be surprised if we see elements of like the Rogue Squadron movie that was being worked on for one point in there,
which also isn't entirely dead, but
right. And for that reason, that's probably the movie I'm most excited for.
Yeah.
Because, and like, I've seen a lot of comments today about like, I'd rather they just remake the Thrawn trilogy. And like, I'm not saying I disagree with that, but it's not possible. It's not going to happen. And I love Star Wars Rebels. So the fact that we're getting a mix of the Thrawn trilogy, which I love, the Mandalorian, which I love, and Star Wars Rebels, which I love,
Yeah.
to me feels like a pretty big win.
Yeah, like I don't think, even aside from the ages of the actors and Carrie Fisher being dead, like I don't think, even in a perfect world, I don't know that a direct attempt to adapt the Thrawn trilogy would necessarily go over that well. Like, even if we don't have the sequel trilogy yet, we're sitting there with perfectly aged actors and actresses. I think there's enough that would be changing in trying to make that movie that people would probably be put off by it. Whereas with something that's pulling from it, but not trying to pretend to be a direct adaptation, there's enough that is probably going to be interesting to people who are fans of that, without feeling too much like you need to compare them. And it's not like your copies of the books are going to be overwritten with whatever Dave Filoni does. So if you're not interested in that, then yeah, that's totally fair. But it's also, don't stop other people from enjoying it if that's their take on it.
Yeah, I never really felt like the Thrawn trilogy would have been a good sequel trilogy, because it's not enough about the Force. I think you really have to reconfigure the role of Jorah Sabayoth to make that work, and I think you've also got to remove the Luke clone in the ending. So yeah, for me, this is pretty much the best we're gonna get. I still hope that one day we get our, like, the thing that I've been championing for, that I think is more likely, is we get the DC animated style retelling of the stories that way,
Yeah,
in what is
that'd be
clearly
cool.
an alternate universe thing. But in the meantime, there is also a fan right now doing a complete recreation of the Thrawn trilogy. He's been working on it for years, or a couple of years. He's still on Heir to the Empire, but that's pretty cool. His is basically a chapter by chapter remake, so it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, and I think the with the movies out there, so the other two movies, there's Dawn of the Jedi set 25,000 years before anything we have. Then there's the New Jedi Order era, which is, they've already announced it has Daisy Ridley in it. It's going to be about reforming the Jedi Order, which we knew from Rise of Skywalker. She already told Luke she was going to do that, or from the sequel trilogy, she already told Luke she was going to do that. So that shouldn't be a surprise. Hopefully, John Boyega is up to coming back as Finn, and they're working together on that. We've had other hints of like other lower profile canon material that have had like Poe talking about how his friends Finn and Rey are working on starting up the Jedi Order again. But the Dawn of the Jedi title and the New Jedi Order title are both names that are from Legends. But I think that's being taken as the names of the movies by some people, that it's the name of the era. So don't necessarily expect those to be movie titles.
Yeah, they did also add the Old Republic era now as well to that chart,
which has
so
the same
presumably
logo as the Tor stuff. So I don't know if they're like going to be doing the KOTOR remake as part of canon with Tor stuff counting as well. Because I don't know if is there anything else in that era that's out right now?
No, not that I'm aware of. Because we don't even really know what the like aesthetic of the era was. So I think the only thing we have like in that time period is quotes about like when they go to certain was it Malachor they visit in Rebels? Why am I forgetting? Yeah,
they
they go to
Malachor.
Malachor. They hear a bit about like old wars fought between the Jedi and the Sith, but that's kind of it as much as I know.
High Republic does talk about like some stuff from that period as well. And even some Mandalorian stuff gets brought up in a few places with that. So yeah,
we did get the Rakatan's name dropped, or Rakatan's name dropped in Andor, which is kind of funny.
The Rakatan crystal. But I think the big thing when talking about movies is, are they actually happening? And I think there's a lot of reasons to believe this is different from the StarWars.com news page about Benioff and
Mhm.
Weiss's movie, or Taika roughly working on a script, or the Ryan Johnson similar Star Wars news page thing, and even the Rogue Squadron announcement at the investor call. Like, I think a celebration announcement is different from that.
Mhm.
But I think the biggest thing to look at for this is the Dave Filoni one, if you want to look at like most solid, because with a
Yeah,
lot of
that
the
one.
directors, go ahead.
I was gonna say that one's for sure happening.
Yeah. Like with a lot of directors, it's like, oh, Ryan Johnson's doing the Glass Onion movies, Taika is doing like Love and Thunder, and he had another project that he left to do Love and Thunder that he's now back
Yeah.
to. But Dave Filoni works for Lucasfilm. He is basically their guy, and he's also at the Clone Wars panel where they announced Tales of the Jedi Season 2, he was talking about how he wants to use Tales to kind of train up other people to kind
Mm,
of spearhead the animation stuff as he works more in live action. But when you
right.
have him that works like directly for the studio, that movie I feel like is more secure than anything Star Wars has ever announced.
Yeah, no, I agree. That one's definitely happening, and I do also want to mention, like, one of the big reports going around is that this means the Mandalorian's ending, and I don't really think that was the intention of the announcement.
No.
The way it's described is that it's going to be a culmination and a conclusion of storylines set up in the Mandalorian,
Yeah.
in Ahsoka, and probably in the Skeleton Crew as well.
Yeah.
However, just because it's the continuation of those stories, keep in mind this will probably be at least 3 years, for 2 to 3 years from now. So, the Mandalorian will be on season 4 or 5, so maybe it'll be time. But just because that storyline is ending doesn't mean that that's it.
Yeah. It might even be a situation where if it's one of the last of those three movies, then that could be years of The Mandalorian going on before we get there, though they're probably planning it in parallel. Like Dave Filoni writes on both or contributes to both. He's not as actively involved in The Mandalorian while he's working on Ahsoka and presumably
Mhm.
that movie. But yeah, like it doesn't need to mean it's the end of that. And I think they've said they're like 6 weeks away from the script on the new Jedi
Mhm.
Order movie. But the fact that
Yeah.
they already have like Daisy Ridley on board, that's farther along than any spec we've had on prior movies. I think the Dawn of the Jedi one is probably the where we have the least information, where they're probably the least far in. But I think like Dave Filoni movie absolutely happening. The Ray movie, like, pretty solid as well,
Mhm.
and way more solid than any other movie talk we've had in a long time.
Mhm. Yeah. No, that's kind of how I feel too. Um, but yeah, let's let's talk about I guess just jump around a bit. I mean,
You
there's
want
lots
to?
to cover. Sorry,
You
go
have any
ahead.
thoughts on Tales since I brought it up there?
Yeah, I was going to talk about animation now. Um, so I was hoping we'd maybe get a new series announcement. We didn't. We did get a season 2 of Tales of the Jedi announced, which
Yep.
is great. I'm assuming it's going to be more Clone Wars stuff, given that it was attached to the Clone Wars panel. Um, and they didn't say otherwise that it was really going to be significantly different, other than Dave Filoni was going to be a little less hands on. Um, so yeah, I mean, I could be wrong. It could end up being more like, I feel like Tales of the Jedi should be more of a cross era thing, just based on the name, because it's not Tales of the Clone Wars, it's Tales of the Jedi. Um, but aside from that, we also did get a look at Visions 2, and we've learned that Bad Batch Season 3 will be the final season and will be coming out next year, which I have mixed feelings about. I really felt like the show had a bit more in it.
Yeah.
But I also respect the choice to end it properly, instead of just dragging it on. And hopefully, there's another animated show that comes on
Yeah.
afterwards that picks up. It does to me feel a bit like the Clone Wars ending again, though, which is sad.
Yeah, but I feel like we got a soft announcement of the fact that there is going to be another series after Bad Batch, with how
They
Dave
did hint at it,
described
yeah, yeah.
Tales being basically a training ground for it.
Hmm.
Uh, and like Jennifer Corbett has kind of been and Brad Wow, what's his name? Brad Rao, I think. The leads that have
Not
been
sure.
on uh, Bad Batch for this season, especially because Dave Filoni hasn't really been that actively involved, if at all,
Hmm.
in season 2. So I don't know, like, if they're going to move on to something else after. But I feel like with if Bad Batch ends next year, presumably we get Tales season 2 next year, then that's if there's maybe a year without one, if something starts like right now, then that could be a reasonable lead time on it. Because we don't know when exactly they started or finished on Tales season 1 and how far along Tales season 2 is at this point. So I was kind of thinking with the appearance in that last set of Bad Batch episodes of like Krennic and uh it was a bunch of Imperial era models, like new models for new characters.
Yeah.
So I was kind of wondering if those were made because they're going to be part of some other story as well, which they might just show up more in the Bad Batch season 3. But it seemed like they were kind of all coming together from different projects, and it's Hemlock that we're going to be focusing on, maybe Tarkin. So maybe that's a hint at something for Tales or something for a future season. But I would like to see them go into different periods with it, for sure.
So when you mean different periods, you don't want them to continue in the between 3 and 4 era?
I'd like to see Tales of the Jedi have like definitely not Clone Wars anymore. I don't think we necessarily need more of that. But if there could be a mix of periods in it, like if you could have even just 2 different periods that are covered in volume 2 of Tales of the Jedi, which I doubt we'll get, but if they could go earlier, maybe, or later. I wouldn't mind like if it's a mix of pre-Clone Wars and some like Imperial era Order 66 Survivor coverage within the same season. Like you get 6 episodes of that. Because we kind of got like a bit of that, but less divergent in the first one, where there was the Ahsoka stuff and the Dooku stuff. Just take that a bit wider.
Yeah. No, I agree. But I think that's a good take. So, if you could make another animated show, or if you were in charge of animation and you were filling in after Bad Batch, what would your show be about then?
I don't know, because like I'm trying to think of what the options are, right? And there's Clone Wars, Bad Batch, and Rebels that we've had already in that style. Resistance is a different style, but it does exist. So,
yeah.
Do you think that they're going to make a show between Bad Batch and Rebels? I don't see that being particularly likely.
My thought is that is where they're going, simply because, for one, they'll have the Bad Batch still. I mean, it's possible they get squad wiped by the end of season 3. But I mean, I just think that they've been leaning on characters like Cody and Rex so much. Plus, that kind of continues. I guess Andor will be over by the time this new show comes out, but it's kind of the era where we still have the least amount of stuff if we want to use those characters. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. I do think the next show could very much be about, like, there was the rumor of the Darth Maul show, which would kind of pick his story up from the end of Clone Wars to Rebels. I mean, the guy that I talked to was very confident about that. Obviously, it didn't end up happening. Maybe it still could. So yeah,
It's possible they don't even know right now. Like it really, I think, depends on where Tales is and where Bad Batch is currently, and also who's going to be involved in it. Like, it's so hard to nail it down, because like one of the things with staying in that period isn't just that they want to focus on those characters; it's that they have those characters, a lot of assets, voice actors already lined up. That might make it a little bit cheaper to do that. But
well, yeah, I mean, if they're working on the show, I would think they'd be working on it now, right? Like if they are planning to not have too big of a gap between the Bad Batch season 3 and whatever's next, you would think
probably early enough in production, but I think it's probably a year you can expect between the Bad Batch ending and another show, 1.5 years, which puts us at 2 to 3 years right now before it starts. So I know Bad Batch was a while before they got to it, but I think
I just don't think
about right.
I don't think that it's like Lucasfilm Animation's its whole department now. I don't think they're going to want to be sitting idle.
Yeah. Well, they could also have multiple shows. Like it could be a thing where they're okay with having 2 shows that alternate. Because it's the same thing with like live action, where it's not just like, okay, we only have the Mandalorian now into Book of Boba Fett, into Kenobi, into whatever. Like we're getting to the point where there's going to be multiple shows that are like kind of interspersed, and rather than having a Bad Batch every 1.5 years, we could end up with a Bad Batch season or whatever replaces Bad Batch season early in the year than something else later on. They clearly have no problem overlapping live
Mhm.
action and an animation show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's true. So I guess on the animation front, the other big news would be we got a Star Wars Visions season or volume 2 rather
Yeah.
trailer. Looked pretty good. Was there any did any part of Visions really stand out to you? Like is there one story you're more excited for? What did you think of the trailer? Yeah.
The trailer was cool. I don't have any super strong opinions on specific stories yet, or what I'm most
Mm-hmm.
looking forward to. I do think it's
Yeah.
cool that they got Dennis Lawson to come in
Yeah.
for voicing Wedge. But that was my main takeaway. I was just watching the whole panel, thinking, "Oh, look, it's Dennis Lawson."
Yeah.
So I kind of stopped listening to everything everyone was saying at that point. How about you? Anyone that's really jumping out for you?
No, kind of the same thing. They all look visually interesting. Like
Mhm.
there's like a Wallace and Gromit one right next
Yeah,
to like a much more serious. I was kind of hoping the end would give us maybe like the Ronin show up again.
yeah.
Like I was kind of hoping they would surprise us with either the Ronin or the Ninth Jedi showing up again. Obviously, that didn't happen. I think it'll be a real shame if they never do anything else with those ideas. But what was I going to say? I gotta say I was hoping a little bit that we'd see a bit more kind of divergence in ideas. Like it does seem like we're kind of getting a lot of the same ideas
Yeah.
explored again. A little hard to say without actually watching the episodes, obviously, but I hope we get more than like explorations of what it means to be a Jedi and
Yeah.
light side versus dark side.
Especially when they're so short, because it did seem like there were a lot of, well, part of it is because they're kind of developed separately, so it's whatever the studio or writer comes up with. But like a few did sound like the first volume, where there's a lot
Yep.
of we're making a duel between a Jedi and a Sith, or something like that.
Which is
And
which?
there's
Yep.
also one that's like, oh, well, we have these two siblings. And one is like, okay, so is that going to be like the twins in the
Mm-hmm.
first one?
Mm-hmm.
And it's so hard to come to any conclusions off of how little information we have, but that also makes it pretty hard to comment on. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't want to overstate things. I just, they've got broad, totally unchecked. Well, I mean, that's probably not true, but they've got broad ability to do whatever they want here.
yep,
So I want to see some. For one, I really like the Visions idea. I want to see them put it out as many as they can.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, like let's get really weird. Let's get really creative. I would like to see some that are simply like visual spectacles. Like I'm
yeah,
thinking of really the Clone Wars 2003 series, where I would love to see a Visions episode that's quite similar to Mace Windu taking down the droid stomper,
hmm
or something like the Battle of Coruscant, or just a giant space battle. Um, so yeah.
I am kind of surprised overall. We already knew this with Visions season 2 or volume 2 before this panel, but like
Mhm.
I'm kind of surprised that the Studio Ghibli stuff hasn't turned into more, or that there wasn't an announcement for like a bigger project with them, because there
Yeah.
was such a big deal made about that a few months ago, but then it turned out to be just the Grogu and the Dust Bunnies thing, which is like, it's fine. Like I'm not complaining that that exists, just that with how much was made of the announcement, it seemed like it was kind of a presaging something bigger coming from them. And I was half expecting this panel to involve some sort of mention of, we've got volume 2, but also we've got this like feature film from Studio Ghibli that's coming. But I
That
don't
would be
know.
the
Maybe I'm
dream.
just crazy. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of hope there's still something happening, because it
Mhm.
would be weird. And didn't we get something else from Studio Ghibli as well after? Like, didn't they hint that they were doing more work?
There was like the picture of Grogu.
Was it
No,
of
that was
Yoda at the?
before. But
Well,
I don't know.
didn't they post a picture of like at? I could remember at Skywalker Ranch or something.
Hmm.
Either way, I think there's potential for something more there.
Yeah.
Hopefully, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah. So I guess that's everything for animation, right? Yeah, we talked about the Bad Batch, we talked about Tales, we talked about Visions. I guess we could loop back a bit to live action, because we talked a lot about Ahsoka.
Mhm.
there wasn't anything new announced for Mando other than they showed an episode early.
No
I
Book
saw
of Boba Fett season 2.
no, I saw a bunch of people who were like really expecting after that episode was shown that like they just refreshed Disney Plus and then it would be on Disney Plus because of the Kenobi episode dropping a few hours early last time.
Yeah.
Like that seemed like really wishful thinking to me, but
Yeah, I kind of figured that was going to happen and people were going to be disappointed.
Mhm.
We're about just over 24 hours away from that episode dropping.
Yeah.
That's the nice thing. I'm going to do if you want to join me, I'll probably do a live watch of that one.
I'd be down.
But yeah, all reaction, even people that have been pretty negative on the season, it's a great episode. So
Yeah.
I did spoil myself. I won't give any spoilers here. There's some things that happen that are just completely wacky in a really good way. Yeah. So I hope they stick the landing on the season. And again, we talked about this during our Mando review episode. The Mandalorian season 1 was kind of like this as well, where it started off really strong with the first 3 episodes, which arguably this season didn't do. And then there were a lot of complaints. Episodes 4, 5, and 6, that the show was just kind of meandering and that it was just adventures of the week. And then the last 2 episodes, they kind of concluded it pretty nicely. So
Yeah.
hopefully we see something similar, especially in episode 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think episode 1 and 2 were pretty well received. Like the complaint with episode 1 was just like, oh look, it's reintroducing everyone. But I don't think anyone really, I don't remember it being particularly negative, and it was so long ago.
Mhm.
But
Oh yeah, ages ago.
Yeah. But yeah, so hopefully that works out. But I'm really glad they actually didn't drop the episode for all of us, because I would have just, I didn't have the bandwidth to watch and work on stuff for it, and I need the extra week of Mando. I'm selfish.
Yeah, no, totally. It's
But
it's been a tiring week, and we're almost done because Bad Batch obviously is over now.
Yeah.
Season 2 is over, rather. Also, chat, if anyone in the chat saw the episode, Critical said I watched episode 7. It was my favorite. That's good. If anyone else is at Celebration they watched, let us know. But yeah, after this is over, we've got Jedi Survivor in April,
Yep.
which we'll talk about later. And then we have, I'm trying to think what else we have. Pretty much not much till Ahsoka. I guess we've got
Visions and Young Jedi Adventure, I think, are both coming out on May 4th now.
Visions is? Or do you mean...
Isn't Visions coming out very soon?
Yeah, I guess you're right. So Visions and Young... Yeah, I mean... So that's interesting. And then Ahsoka in August. So
Yeah.
we're not... it's not too bad.
And Skeleton Crew's supposed to be this year as well, so that's probably Ahsoka in August through mid-September. Is it 6 episodes or is it 8? Do we know yet?
Ahsoka?
Yeah.
It's 8 episodes.
It's 8 episodes? Cool. So that gets us until October. And then if it's like November, December for Skeleton Crew,
Yeah.
that'd be cool.
Yeah, so Skeleton Crew had a trailer as well. Totally behind closed doors. I don't think they showed anything about the show really on the stage.
No. Did you watch all the like Andor, Skeleton Crew, and Acolyte footage?
Yeah.
You did?
But I mean, the versions were pretty poor that I saw.
Yeah, wasn't the clearest.
The Acolyte one especially was pretty limited. It was like, I think 2 scenes.
Yeah.
Mostly featuring Carrie-Anne Moss was kind of the big reveal.
Yeah. Well, they're still filming, right? Like
Yeah.
them and even Andor, I think, are both still filming, so it's not surprising that they'd have a bit less to work with. Because that's like late next year for both of them.
Andor was the one I saw the least of, but I also kind of don't want to see Andor. I mean, I'll watch the trailers, but like I'm so confident in that the show's going to be good that I'm not, in a way, I'm like less excited because I know what it's going to be about, but I also know it's going to be high quality. So it's like, I don't really need to watch some 1080p version or a 260p version of some trailer. Like, I'm probably good.
Yeah.
And everyone who was there said it looked good. Skeleton Crew, I think it's going to be good, but I'm just, I couldn't tell from the trailer. I feel like it's going to be a show that's be really big on atmosphere. Obviously, it's trying to capture like the magic of Spielbergian movies or like Stranger Things. So yeah.
Well, there's something I really thought you'd have a stronger opinion on, because we're getting an Ortolan, and
Yeah,
just
the four-legged limbed Ortolan, I don't get it.
yeah, it's. Are you going to boycott the show, or are you still going to watch it?
I might boycott it, yeah. Unless they like introduce it as like an Ortolan subspecies or something.
Yeah,
Like,
there's
it
always
is
been
the
the
blue.
official art that has multiple limbs that they just didn't understand what was going on in Return of the Jedi. Like, that's the thing. It's a bunch of people who don't understand Star Wars that made all these reference books and gave
Mhm.
them extra limbs. It's
Yeah,
disgusting.
fake fans, honestly. But yeah, it like I wasn't even sure if it was an Ortolan. Obviously, it's a blue elephant, and that gets you halfway there. But the face looked a little different. I guess it's younger. But but yeah, that show looks interesting. It'll be cool if it ties in with if it ties into the rest of the MandoVerse, like
Yeah.
it's rumored to. But yeah, overall pretty cool vibe, I think.
Yeah. I like Jude Law, so I'm good with that. I'm good with him.
So is he supposed to be a Force user in this?
Yeah, I think he's supposed to be a Force user. I think that's been publicly
Mhm.
announced, and he's leading the little crew of skeletons. I think that's what the little ones are called. And I there has been something else shown. I don't know if we should talk about it in that footage. So if people want to just turn their
I'll put
headphones
my hand
off
up while there's spoilers off.
for the next 30 seconds.
Or you're gonna
So
talk. You put your hand up.
okay. Well, yeah, you were too lazy to clap. You snapped before we were doing the
Yeah.
audio check. But the one of the things that does connect it to the rest of the Mandoverse is that Vane, the pirate from this
Oh
season of The
yeah.
Mandalorian, has been shown in that behind closed doors footage.
Mm.
So we do have at least that connection there. Seemingly
That was
he's going to be
very
a bigger
odd.
bad, uh,
Yeah.
which I think makes sense with the scale of the show that
Do you think he's gonna
the
be a
pirate
bigger
guy.
bad? I'm not sure.
Well, it seems like he's going to be one of the more major villains, rather than like more connected to the main part of the plot, rather than being kind of like a side villain as he is in Mandalorian.
I more felt like he's going to just be like a kind of a rogue, or like he's there for things. Like I was thinking of, remember in the Thrawn duology, that character at the beginning who's got the fake Kamasi documents. Like I feel like that's kind of going to be his role, but we'll see, I guess.
Well, I don't mean like he's necessarily going to be more evil, but it does seem like he's going to be more involved with the plot than he is in the
Yeah,
Mandalorian. But maybe you're
yeah.
saying that's what you disagree with.
No, I would agree with
Okay.
that. I just think he's going to be like a kind of a darker Han Solo type, where he's
Yeah.
not evil, but he's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
he's
Well,
stealing ships, or he's
I don't mean bigger bad as in like he's gonna like kick a puppy, maybe a kick an Ortolan, but that's about it. Okay,
yeah.
I'm gonna stop talking about this so I can put my arms down.
Okay.
How about those Mets though?
Yeah, how about those Mets?
We so not that much to say with the Acolyte. There were a lot of interviews with it. It seems like a big cast too. That's one of the things. A
I'm
lot of
really excited
lightsabers.
because I really like Carrie Ann Moss,
Yeah.
so I think she'll be a great Force user of some sort, and it does seem like it's going to be more martial arts themed. So
Yeah. There are some questions with the Acolyte about like time period though too, because there is a character that is coming in from the High Republic books,
Mm.
and
Oh,
the age of
Verdesh
that
Farrow,
character, yeah, the age of that character would be quite high if it's where it was originally thought to be set, unless this is like a flashback of some kind,
Mm.
or she's in a stasis chamber or something, or Miri Allen's just live forever. So that's a little bit less clear right now. But The Acolyte, I said before, was the show I'm most looking forward to, other than Andor now, and
Mm.
I think that's remained the same.
For me, it's probably still got to be Ahsoka, or is Ahsoka after that trailer? I really like
The
that
Rebels
trailer.
crew is just
Yeah, it's just too much, especially where we saw Zeb pulled off so well,
yeah,
like literally perfectly. And I gotta say, one thing about the Ahsoka trailer, we see Sabine in it with shorter hair and with her Mandalorian armor.
yeah,
She's like perfect casting.
yeah.
Um, did you see the very last scene of the trailer? I'll put hands up, slight spoiler again for Ahsoka, the trailer. The
I think
final,
I did, but if I didn't, then I wouldn't know. So
okay, well, the final shot is them with a Purgle. So
right, okay, yeah.
yeah, and it looked like they looked great, like especially where Sabine's kind of done up a bit more. So
Well, I was kind of worried with Hera because like Twi'leks look kind of janky in some of the shows, but it really seems like they put a lot into these characters that they're going to be so major, which makes sense that it'd be more resources when Hera is going to be presumably a pretty big part of the show. Seems like she's doing a lot of the like New Republic side of things, and that's presumably why Zeb looks so good too. Like I'm really hoping he plays a bigger role in Ahsoka, or at least some role in Ahsoka.
I
But
assume I would be shocked if they don't get the
yeah,
band back together.
including Callus.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you see, before we move on from that, did you see the thing that Dave Filoni said where it was like when he was talking about the scene in The Mandalorian with Carson Teva talking to Zeb, and he says, well, he goes off screen and he tells blank
someone,
and well, you guys wouldn't know. And I couldn't tell if he was referring to Carson going off screen or if he was talking about Zeb going, and then there's Callus right there and they talk about it. I couldn't tell what he was
I read that as Zeb.
to imply.
I kind of imagine Zeb and Hera is who I kind of imagine the conversation between, but yeah, I did see that. I sort of agree that that Twi'leks are really hard to pull off. I actually think Hera does look the worst out of the crew.
Really? Oh, out of the crew, not out of the Twi'leks, though.
Yeah, no, out of the crew, but she still looks great. It's just like Sabine, they absolutely nailed. Ahsoka's perfect. She's not really one of the crew. Like, come on. Chopper, that one.
Chopper's
scene,
hard to fuck up.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I don't know if he is, because a lot of what makes Chopper so funny is like his movements and like how erratic he is. Like, Chopper has like a mental problem. And that like scene where he's like in the back of the Phantom 2 and he's just like shaking his arm, just like giving her. Fair I was enough. Like, they nailed it. I love Chopper. I have no Star Wars like memorabilia or merchandise. You might be able to see it. I do have a Chopper up there by my little Grogu.
Yeah. I'll move your camera in my view so people can see that as well. But
yeah, like I think what was I saying? Oh yeah, I think Hera is the hardest to pull off. Even like in Star Wars Squadrons, it's like, okay, it's just she doesn't look the same, but she still looks great, so it's not really an issue. It's just she's the furthest away. But yeah,
I do think Ezra will look better than he does in the hologram once he's actually there, because it was like trying to he looked fine, but it was like trying to recreate that haircut and make it like obvious that he was in the little hologram, and I still missed it the first time I watched it. But yeah, I think he'll look much better when he's there and active, and I don't think he's in the Inquisitor suit.
I think part of the issue too with Hera is all of these characters have like one, either they look exactly like their comic counterpart or their cartoon counterpart, or they sound, or they have the same voice actress.
Yeah.
And Hera doesn't have the same voice actress, and there's more of a difference visually. Some, like Bo-Katan, have both. It's like, okay, great casting. But yeah, I don't know. I think the Ezra actor is like perfect for him. So.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I think Hera will grow on you more. I think you're wrong.
Okay. Again, I don't think it's bad.
100% wrong. We're getting this in writing, and you're gonna go back.
Which one do you think is the worst? Then I'm just curious.
The worst.
Yeah.
I don't think there is a worst.
Wayne Gretzky had a worst season, even though it was still,
But it sounds like you're saying that she wasn't just the worst; she just wasn't up to par, even.
No, I think she was up to par. I just think she was the worst.
Okay, then I'll have to come back with a report and really analyze everything. I know you spent a lot of time like making sure that every side of Sabine was accurate.
Right,
so,
for sure.
Yeah. Well, who else even is there? It's Ezra, Hera, Sabine, Chopper, Zeb, Ahsoka. I don't think we're counting Ahsoka. We'll have to see if Callus, like if they get Jaime Lannister to play him or not. That's really what it comes down to. And Freddie Prinze Jr. for Kanan in some sort of
David
flashback.
Oyelowo. Yeah.
I think we're getting a Kanan.
Callus could just be black.
Could be.
They could
Why
just say fuck it and just why not? Do you think we're getting Kanan stuff? No, I don't think so.
Nothing, not a holo that Hera looks at, not a flashback, not
I
a
think
force
yeah.
vision. When we're
I
going to
don't
the
think we're
fucking
gonna
world between worlds for sure. You don't think they're gonna walk past Kanan exploding and you have like
That's a
Freddie
good
Prince
point.
Fireball?
I don't think they'll get Freddie Prince Jr. to do it. Because Kanan's like Freddie Prince Jr. is like the palest dude ever.
They can
Like he's
fix
like
that in
almost
post.
translucent. So
Well,
yeah.
Kanan is going to be really well lit if they go back to that scene. So
yeah, it'll be crispy. Yeah, I don't know. I guess we might. I don't think we'll have a flashback. There have been rumors about flashbacks in the show. I don't think it will involve Kanan. I just feel like he's done his job at this point. Honestly,
he's done okay. Don't think about it from an universe perspective. Think about Dave Filoni is making a show about the Rebels crew. Do you think that man in the space, let's say it gets a second season especially, you think that man doesn't find a way to put Kanan in the show?
Oh, there's a much better way for him. I can't believe you haven't Doom.
Jason just grows into what?
Doom. The wolf, the Loth Wolf. Because that's Kanan now, basically.
Yeah.
So I bet you we're gonna have Loth Wolves in the show. I mean,
well, we have the Loth cat thing that Sabine has.
Yeah, which is like I gotta say, probably the least cursed they've ever looked, but still pretty cursed. But yeah, I would put $10,000 on there being a Loth Wolf in this show.
I would not take that bet.
Yeah, I think you'd be a moron too, unless you worked on the show and know for sure.
Do you think that Kanan has a higher or lower chance of showing up than Jason does? Syndulla, not Solo.
Oh, Jason will show up.
Yeah. Okay, I was trying to trick you on. Okay, Loth Wolf versus Jason Syndulla. You got to pick one.
Loth Wolf.
This is probably still the right choice.
I just think Loth Wolves were like thematically a pretty big part of the end of the show. And I gotta say, one thing I've really liked about Ahsoka is how, like, I've had issues with some of Dave Filoni's directing before. I know it was stylized in The Mandalorian, but they really nailed a lot of the little things that make Rebels look like Rebels.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just surprised how well it's translated to live action. Like, they've got Ezra's house and it has all the drawings on the walls. They could have very easily turned down how strange Lothal looks. Like, Lothal's a very I believe it was based on Alderaan concept art. It's a very stylized city, and I was like, I kind of wonder if they're going to turn that down in live action. If anything, they fully embraced it.
Yeah,
where it looks like even more like concept art, which is great. Even there's the scene that I guess I didn't realize, but I guess is supposed to be the recreation of the end of season 4. They even have that little audio cue, like I don't even know what sound it is, but I've just been surprised how well they've done translating it to live action.
Yeah, like it'd be weird to me if that's not recreating that shot, other than the fact that like Sabine has her long hair versus short. I can't tell with the other shot that where she has short hair. Is that because it's tied up, like tied back, rather than because it's cut? Because it seems like it's still there, just like you can.
We know Sabine; she's gonna cut her hair like 12 times. We've already seen her with 2 different. Oh, the other trailer shows her with a different hair color.
Yeah,
at least. But yeah, one thing. So regarding the trailer, I do have a theory I want to share. I want you to tell me if you think I'm right or wrong. So I think that there's going to be 2 things that Ahsoka's trying to do at the beginning. Hold on, I got a sniffle. Okay, I hit the cough button. Okay, I think that she's trying to find Thrawn and Ezra. Obviously, something's happened. We don't even really know what yet, because she knows Thrawn's around by the time of the Mandalorian. We don't really know what started that. We're going to learn. But my guess is that because we see that she's in 2 locations. One is like an old salvage yard, and it looks like we see her jumping out of the bridge of a Star Destroyer. And I think the third to last shot of the trailer is her Palpatine style cutting open a window and jumping out. It's one of those. It looks like a Star Destroyer viewport. So my guess is that that's a piece of the puzzle. She needs two pieces. I think she's also at that other planet where she finds she does the little sword thingy. I think that probably has a map of the area where
Yeah.
Thrawn is.
Well,
So,
the room she's fighting Balin in is a map room.
yes.
Right? So
I think that there's been talk about, okay, he's in a new part of space. I think that's probably kind of showing like where that space is. And then the Star Destroyer, I think, is probably one of the 7th Fleet ships that was at Lothal. And I think there's probably some data in there about like the trajectory of where they got pulled by the space wheels.
Yeah.
Because we don't really fully know what happened to the fleet at Lothal. Other than the fleet in orbit was, disabled by the whales, and then Thrawn got pulled away. Thrawn and Ezra and the Chimera got pulled away. My guess is that all the ships kind of got ripped away, just not quite as far. So I think she's probably looking for like trajectory data, so she can be like, okay, they're in this part of space down this line somewhere, so she can start looking.
Yeah, like that's pretty close to what I was thinking as well. Where like my feeling was that the Purrgil brought them somewhere with a strong force connection because they're Space Force wolves. Like that's why Balin and Shin are working adjacent to Thrawn. I feel like it's kind of like a Jorah Sabaoth situation where they're not just like Thrawn's cronies. They feel like where he went has something valuable to him.
Right.
And that's why Ahsoka would get anything useful out of going, and Balin would get anything useful out of going to what seems to be like an ancient Jedi related map room. Because like the ancient Jedi didn't just have a map to where Thrawn and Ezra went eventually if it was nowhere meaningful. Like I think that's what the connection would be. So yeah.
Yeah, and so a lot of people thought that when she's facing off against Balin that they're in the world between worlds, but I think that's clearly not the case.
It looks very map room-esque and not quite world between worlds.
Yeah, and if you look when they're in that area, there's like little projectors on the ground, like little bits of equipment that kind of, to me it seems like that whatever's being created there is being activated or projected rather than them being in the world between worlds specifically.
It looked a lot like the KOTOR star maps. Like the
for sure.
Room, like the big projections. We'll see if they get quizzed by an angry Rakatan on etiquette, or what the one on Kashyyyk does.
Oh yeah, forgot about that.
Could Dave Filoni have like they made that name drop in Andor? Does Dave just go fuck it and bring in the Rakatan star maps?
He might. Yeah, I mean, that gives them, because one of the big questions is, okay, you're gonna have this show. How do you make it feel meaningful even when we know where the end point is? The sequel trilogy. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're kind of setting up something far down in the future in this show. Based on Thrawn's age, I don't think he's going to survive because he's almost 70 at this point. He was given an official birth date in the new Timelines book of 58 BBY, which makes sense given how active he is during the Clone Wars and earlier.
Yeah.
So he's nearly 70. He probably won't survive, but there's still some interesting, like, that's a whole nother area of space with another threat, whether it is something like a Starforge or whatever else. So yeah, I'm kind of with you. I'm kind of with you there.
Yeah, like, I don't think it'll be setting up like a post First Order, oh look, Thrawn sect of Imperials are still out there somewhere that Rey has to fight. I feel like we're getting more tied into some other kind of mystical related thing. And if Thrawn becomes involved post, I think probable death, I think you're right, in the Heir to the Empire movie or whatever it ends up being called, like maybe cloning's involved there. I don't think they'll go down that road again, like right after Rise of Skywalker. But with cloning being such a huge part of every other storyline, then maybe it'll be involved somehow. But I think this is like setting up to be a separate kind of parallel thing going on. I think you're bang on, mate.
Because you got to make the people who don't care about the sequels care, I think. Well, you don't have to, but I think that would be smart.
I don't even think it has to go that way. It's just like you don't want to reuse the exact same situation
Yeah.
again. Like, we don't need a
Yeah.
Death Star
That's fair.
4 dealing with a cloned Thrawn instead of a cloned Palpatine.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. I was gonna say there's a lot in the trailer. There's a few other things I wanted to address. I'm just rewatching it now because I don't remember. Oh yeah, so I listened to the descriptive audio. They call those ships new, or they call them rebel transports, but I still think they could be anything. The
Yeah,
descriptive
the
audio.
Mon-Cal kind of looking ones,
I
or
think they're
like
definitely
modernized
Mon-Cal
Mon-Cal.
cruisers because she's got that little station that all the Mon-Cal ships have,
Yeah,
that we see it like Akbar sit at.
it
So
doesn't look like an MC-30. Like, I've played too much Empire at War, but like that was what I read them as first, especially with the tail. But
mhm.
maybe we should do like a full pre-Ahsoka episode, because
Probably.
we're already at like an hour of mostly talking about Ahsoka. Just the
Yeah.
trailer.
The only other thing that I will mention is there are two. Okay, there's one scene where Heir is chasing after that ship in the Phantom 2, which I could not figure out what's going on. It's carrying something.
Mhm.
But the shot we see of Thrawn, it actually looks like he could perhaps be on Mount Tantus.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I don't know if we know where Mount Tantus is. It could be in that new part of the galaxy. But both the shots with Thrawn and with Morgan Elsbeth have these weird devices that remind me a lot of they were in the background in The Last Jedi. The attendants, like they're like blue robed aliens. They use them, and the lore is that they're supposed to help them navigate through different, like the unknown regions. So I just kind of wonder if
So
that.
like the Skywalkers and the Pathfinders.
No, these were in The Last Jedi.
Yeah, but like the same function as the ones from the
Yeah,
Thrawn
kind of.
trilogy.
They're not force based though, I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they're just like they're like big telescopes almost. But yeah,
You plan it there, don't go.
yeah, exactly.
Any other Ahsoka thoughts? I guess.
No,
I think
I'm
we've
good for that.
covered a lot of the actual news.
The only thing we haven't talked about is video games, video game.
Right. Yeah, so
Jedi
that was
Survivor.
the thing that I was a little bit disappointed about, because we talked about it beforehand. I was really
Yeah.
hoping for some kind of video game talk, but we
Really
got
disappointing.
we got the final Jedi Survivor trailer.
Looked really good.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the game still. We already talked about that before, but like I'm more excited now than I was before I played it. And
Me too.
like, I really like how they're bringing in more of the characters to more of the game, because you're not just going to be alone all the time. There's going to be the companion fighting
I wonder if you get to
moves.
choose who you're with.
I feel like maybe once you've gotten a few of them, because it seems like they're not necessarily 100% are in the story at that point, where like you just kind of press a button and it's on a cooldown. But I'm hoping you get a bit more like dialogue or banter as you go through certain areas, kind of like KOTOR, where they'd comment on stuff if they were around. Like that was one of my favorite parts, at least, of Fallen Order. Like, it was such a small part of the game, but like going from the Terran Malicos fight back to the Mantis, when Marin was just kind of following you around and you were talking.
Yeah.
But I hope there's more of that. That's what my hope is for that feature.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing I wanted to mention, just generally, because I agree with. Not much else to say about Jedi Survivor. It looks great. Nice to see Cal there in person. Karen Monahan, big poncho guy.
Yeah.
One thing I just saw is Studio Ghibli actually posted on. It was today, slightly before the announcement. They posted a picture of Ahsoka with Grogu. This is a new day, a new beginning. I'm guessing they're kind of indicating. They're kind of making a comment about Celebration Japan.
Mm-hmm.
But like, what if they announced the Studio Ghibli movie at Celebration in Japan?
With a big fancy trailer? That'd be cool. Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, right?
Yeah. That's where they live.
Yeah. My one big disappointment, aside from the lack of video games, is Alex tweeted something about there'll be a surprise at the Jedi Survivor panel, and he was referring to, I'm guessing,
Like the
Cameron
poncho.
Monahan.
Or yeah, Cam.
I gotta say, I was my big hope was that we might get an announcement of something live action featuring him, just because he's the voice, he's the appearance, he's perfect for it. Just hope it's not they don't waste him, basically.
I think he's come. Like, I don't think they're going to give up that opportunity. I think they might be waiting a little bit, though, because I feel like it's going to be Jedi Survivor. Then they've already said it's probably a trilogy. And as long as Cal survives that, which I hope he does, then I think you get him in live action after that. But I don't think they'd put him in something before that is done, because it's too much of a spoiler on the games, and it kind of limits what the games are going to be able to do. Because I don't think they've ruled out that he could be there. They got the Fortress Inquisitorius from that into live action like right away. So it's not like it's just they can't touch that area. But I think if you're looking at potentially a future for Ahsoka, getting some more Jedi related stuff in with that or with other shows in the period, like you have Heir to the Empire in the next 5 years probably, and like anything that you want to do live action is post Andor right now. And Cam, I think, is still a little bit too young for that. So
I mean, he's 29.
Yeah, I think you've got like if his first live action appearance is in 6 years, then I still feel like that's within a reasonable time for the kind of projects they're doing. I don't think you want to just like shove him into the Mandalorian right now, or like maybe there's an off chance he's in Ahsoka season 1, but that feels like a lot to try to work in when it's got so many primary characters to focus on. So
yeah, no, I would rather him stay in the area he's in right now, honestly, in a show, I think. But it'd be cool to see him.
That'd have to be a whole new show at this point, other than Andor. Well, actually, he's buddies with Saw. Like him and Saw are boys. Andor season 2 probably has Saw. So is he just gonna be like walking around in the background?
It's true. I said this before. I was really disappointed they chose to feature Kanan in some of because he was featured in, I think, Clone Wars season 7 as well. I guess that was that before Jedi Survivor or Jedi Fallen Order came out? Because that was the perfect opportunity to me to have a young Cal and make that bridge the world. It's just kind of surprising that that it's just this massively successful game series, and story-wise, we haven't seen a whole lot carried over. We did see, like you mentioned, Fortress Inquisitorius and Kenobi, and we've seen BD droids in Book of Boba Fett. So
I think it's a non-zero chance of Cal in Andor very briefly. Like Tony Gilroy doesn't normally do that stuff, but I feel like if the option's there, I don't think it's out of the question.
Yeah, and he doesn't even have to like explicitly be a Jedi.
He doesn't even need to be part of the story. He just has to be there on his scene with Saw.
Yeah, that's true. If anything, if he is featured in, it would make sense that he's not openly a Jedi as well. Although he's pretty well known in the galaxy, so.
Because like we know they're friends from Fallen Order, so if there's any live action connection right now, that'd probably be the one.
I don't think we know. Do we know if Saul's going to be in Jedi Survivor? I don't think so.
I don't think. No.
Okay.
They haven't said anything, but like, I think Saw is in everything. I think Forrest Whitaker is like contractually obligated to appear in every Star Wars thing right now.
Yeah.
Like, name one thing that Saw Gerrera hasn't been in.
I can't do it.
There you go.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say about Star Wars Celebration. I hope they I hope they change their policy on behind closed doors stuff for Japan, because it's also going to be quite weird, because it's going to be even further away in timeline from us in North America, but in time zone rather.
Yeah.
But Oh, one thing I want to mention. In the Jedi Survivor trailer, we do see some of the Jedi worms active in one of the scenes.
I missed that.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, I think that does it. I think we covered everything. We'll be back on Thursday talking about... Saw was not in Mando. I have bad news about Saw Gerrera after episode 4-ish, or after Rogue One. But anything pre him exploding, he seems to just have to be in. But
yeah. So next time I didn't get to the new podcast reviews, but if you guys enjoyed this, if you're watching live right now, just a reminder, you can check the description of the videos to find the audio versions. We've got like 150 episodes of TapCaf.
Around there.
Yeah, most of the time we cover books, but obviously things have been a little different right now with all the shows.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can check that out. Usually we cover a book a week. You can read along with us, get all into it, get hyped. It's a lot of fun.
I do want to address that briefly before we go. Books aren't gone. It's just when we're as busy as we have been for the last long time, if the shows are there, it makes sense for us to cover that. This is an extra episode, so it wouldn't have been a book anyways. But
2 weeks left of shows, and then we'll be back to books for till Jedi Survivor at least.
Yeah. And it's just it is a big time commitment for us to do a book a week. Usually before, when it was just books, we were doing every other week for the podcast. But we will be getting back to them. It's just when we have this option and it's a much less bigger demand on our time, it just no reason not to.
Speaking of, that reminded me, there was a new Indiana Jones trailer. That movie comes out, let me just double check, because I do want to have, so that comes out June 30th. I want to do an Indiana Jones episode or episodes. I think we could do, if we wanted, we could offset them with books and do like 3 weeks, or we could, I feel like we should at least watch the first 3. Because for one, they're great movies. Like, if you've never seen them, right, Corey? So I feel
I've seen some of them. I think I've seen 2. When I was talking to Alex and I was listing things I remembered, he was thinking everything I listed were from Raiders, but I think I've seen The Last Crusade as well. But other than that, no.
That's the one with Sean Connery.
In a library at the start or something, or in his
where they cracked through the floor.
I don't like. It was at least 10 years ago that I saw any of them, and I wasn't paying attention.
Can't remember.
So I need to rewatch all of them. But
yeah, because they are good movies. So how do you feel about it? How would you like to do it?
I'd be up for that. I think we'd be able to do a bit on that.
Okay, cool.
As long as I don't think I want to cover the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles or whatever the TV show is called. But
what about the novels?
Depends on how long they are.
There's a lot of really good novels here. I'll read some of them for you. There's 1 second. Oh, where are they? It's their Indiana Jones and the Genesis Deluge, Indiana Jones and the Unicorn's Legacy, Indiana Jones and the Interior World, Indiana Jones and the Sky Pirates, Indiana Jones and the Philosopher's Stone, Indiana Jones.
I've read that one, but it was a different person in it.
Yeah, Indiana Jones and the Secret of the Sphinx, Army of the Dead, Hollow Earth, Dinosaur Eggs, White Witch.
I think Sky Pirates is like, we have to read Sky Pirates if we're going to do anything.
That's the one that always gets my. That's the one that always. They have I think we've talked about this on the podcast before, but I'm pretty sure they were. They were Bantam books, all of them, and they are very similar in appearance to like old Star Wars Legends novels.
Okay.
So,
look,
of the early 90s.
I'm not saying yes, but I'm not saying no either.
Okay.
Right.
They're being pretty confident with the new movie. They're releasing it at Cannes, so like a month before its theatrical release date. So,
and that's the best thing to drink pop out of. So how could they go wrong?
That's true.
Well, thank you for watching and listening, everyone. We will be back on Thursday for The Mandalorian Episode 7. So set your alarms for that.
And I'll be doing a stream. You're free to join.
I will also be in that stream. We'll be, I guess, watching it as soon as it's available tomorrow night.
Yeah. So in about 26 hours or so, or 29
hours, I think.
Yeah, 29 hours.
But thanks again, everyone. And enjoy the next 29 hours. Don't cut off any limbs.
Fucking weird thing to say.
At 27 hours, isn't it?
127 hours?
Okay, I gave him a lot less time than he had.
You think you could only go 27 hours without eating and drinking?
Yes.
I feel like you do that routinely.
No, that's true.
Your sensitive belly.
Well, I just don't know what everyone else is able to do. James Franco might be...
27 hours is how long James Franco can go without harassing a woman.